Hey, what's up guys? This is Joe and Tell. Today I'm going to be testing out to see what DIRAC does on this NAD T778. In a previous video, I wanted to see what Audyssey could do to calibrate this particular speaker. This is the Polk Audio R200. I'll leave a link to that video. Now, a lot of people, including myself, think that DIRAC does a better job of calibrating the speakers in the room. And so today, let's take a look and see what the differences are. Now, one thing that's different about DIRAC is that it allows you to use a U-Mic 1 to do the calibration. That's this mic over here. And a lot of people believe that that will give you better results. But for the sake of fairness, I'm gonna use the mic that they provided with the NAD to kind of keep it a little bit more fair. So right now, I have all of the settings, all the DSP turned off here on this NAD. And I'm just gonna do a quick measurement of this speaker to see how it performs with no DSP. So let's compare this to the previous measurement with pure direct on the Denon, and we can see that the response looks the same, so that's good. It's not doing anything to change the sound on either device. Let me just move this up to verify, and you can see that pretty much everything lines up. I'm getting a little bit more top end extension here on pure direct with Audyssey, but that could be just an error on my measurement. Anyway, the takeaway is that these look pretty much the same. I'm gonna go ahead and run DIRAC here. There's also an app that you can use to do it. It doesn't matter either way, it's just easier for me to use a computer, so I'm gonna use a computer. All right, so here is showing the NAD T778. I'm gonna go ahead and choose that. And then you can choose the microphone, and for this, see that I have the option of using the U-Mic 1, but I will choose this mic here using calibration from device. All right. Go ahead and proceed. I'm just gonna use a focused image, so all right, so there's the measurement that it shows here. So I'm gonna do 3 points just because that's what I did with the Denon, just to be fair. So I'll do this one here. All right, so this could be an issue just because I have to have another speaker connected, otherwise it can give me an error. But I'm not sure how much it's taking into account the other speaker when it's doing the calculation. A lot of this stuff is kind of unknown to us. And so I'm trying to keep it as controlled as possible, but just keep in mind that that might be an issue, but let's just see. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and proceed with 3 measurements. I don't care about the left speaker, this is the right speaker here. And what it's showing me is that the -3 dB point from what it's seeing is 66.8, and that's because the port is in the back. Otherwise it actually goes a lot lower than that. So let me go ahead and extend this out. I know that the speaker can get down to, high 30s. So I'm gonna go ahead and move that over there. So this is the default target curve for DIRAC. It's showing the high frequencies fall off at about 15.5. I'm gonna go ahead and move this all the way up to 20 kilohertz. That's one thing that you can do on this. You can actually choose the range which it tries to make corrections. On Audyssey, you're able to limit, but you're not able to extend out further from what I remember. So this is kind of handy because in the bass area here, let's say it's I want to extend it out further, I can do that. I just need to make sure that the speaker doesn't go into overexertion and I blow up the speaker. So I like the fact that they give you the option. DIRAC does a lot of stuff with impulse response. Now, this is not about impulse response. We're just gonna look at just the frequency response, R200. Export. All right, so one thing I do notice is the export is a little bit faster on this NAD than it is on the Denon. All right, so now I have that calibration profile in the NAD, and let's take a measurement to see how it does. All right, so the first thing you might notice is that the level is much lower here. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it up and take another measurement just so we have less noise coming from outside compared to the signal that's going into this microphone. I just realized that part of the reason for that is because the other speaker that was playing, that it's correcting for as well, is over here and down below, and so the signal is probably very low in comparison. So that's probably why it's lowered it, because it's trying to correct for all of it. Anyway, it's not ideal. So this is the response it came up with, and let's compare that to the response with Audyssey. This is their reference response, and you notice that both of them kind of add this correction here where it adds a peak. It's kind of interesting. No DSP, and then with DIRAC flat, you see that it introduces this this weird correction, and I'm not sure exactly why that is, but it does it here as well as on Audyssey. I wasn't sure exactly what that is. I think it has something to do with the fact that they expect you to listen to these not a foot away, but maybe 8, 10, 12, 13, 14 feet away. So comparing the two, already I am seeing that DIRAC allows it to have more bass extension like we were talking about earlier. So you'll see that here where it extends out further. I want to see the difference between the corrected response and the original response. Let's do Audyssey flat and compare that to what DIRAC does flat. So here you can take a look at both of those. So this blue one is Audyssey flat, and this one here is DIRAC flat. And looking at these two, it kind of looks like there's more of a downward tilt to the DIRAC one. Let me go ahead and move this other one up so we can look at them a little bit closer. So looking at the two, you can see that there's less bass. Overall, it's just basically, imagine a tilt, this happening. There's more of a tilt on the DIRAC one. And we can look at that when we look at the trace arithmetic, the difference between these two. And you can see that there's a downward tilt to the DIRAC correction compared to the Audyssey one. If I smooth this out, you can kind of take another look here and see the different slopes there. You also notice that there's a little bit more of a bass bump here below 80 Hertz for DIRAC. Let's take a look and see how it compares to the reference mode on Audyssey. You can still see that there's just more bass on the DIRAC flat profile. So you can see just more extension down here. So as you can tell, the difference between what DIRAC has done and what Audyssey has done, there's just a downward slope here. Apply smoothing to both of these here. Now, if you want to take a look at these yourself, I'm going to leave the MDAT file, so if you have REW, you can actually take a look at these yourself and kind of do your own analysis, and leave in the comment below what you think you're seeing. Overall, what I'm just seeing here is just more bass extension and a downward slope to the DIRAC correction, more in line with the Harman research, which says that most people prefer a downward slope when you're listening to a speaker in room. So I'm going to do one more thing, which is change the target in DIRAC to the NAD target curve, which is very similar from what I've seen to the Harman target. So here in DIRAC, you can go ahead here and go load target curve for all the groups. I'm gonna load the NAD target curve. So there you see it there, export. Had to move the computer, it's getting a little bit warm on top of this. So I have the NAD profile loaded onto here. Let's take a quick measurement. And as you can see here, this doesn't have a ton of bass extension. Where I have this mic near field, it's not picking up a ton of bass extension, although the extension of this is actually more because in a room, you're not gonna be listening this close to the speaker. But you can see already that the NAD target curve bumps up the bass here compared to the previous one. So get the reference. So this is flat is orange and the NAD curve is the greenish color. Also, there's more of a roll off in the NAD target. So we can also take a look at the difference. You can see that here is the difference between the NAD target versus DIRAC target. And you can see more of a bass bump here below 150 Hertz, above 63 Hertz. Slight differences here, but for the most part, they're pretty much the same until you get past 10K, and then you start seeing that it starts rolling off the treble a little bit faster. All right, so hopefully that gave you a little bit of insight as to what DIRAC is doing here compared to Audyssey. Keep in mind that the differences that I typically hear have more to do with the level matching between the two, as well as maybe what they're doing with regards to phase. When I'm using DIRAC, it seems to me that all of the speakers just kind of work together a little bit better. It sounds a little bit more cohesive. But in addition to that, I like the target curve. But knowing what you know now, you may be able to use a target curve on Audyssey that's more similar to DIRAC if that's what you prefer. So anyway, this wasn't a completely scientific test. There's a lot of things that may have skewed the results slightly, but hopefully it gave you some insight. Just take it with a grain of salt, and you may want to do an experiment like this for yourself to see what it's doing based on your measurements. So anyway, if you liked the video, make sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified when I upload new videos. Take care. Bye-bye.